The conceptual art, here fascinated with the mythology surrounding Chartres Catholic Cathedral that would catch fire in legend in the 1600s of the Dutch Pays-Bas. Chartres Cathedral, locating south of Notre Dame. The Catholic clergy of Chartres is then attempting to ameliorate the suffering from the Black Plague. Afoot missionary work in Africa is, by poetic legend, occupying two landscapes at once. As a theater of the real, it challenges again today metaphor. A theater of the real, curiously suggesting the literal today by conceptual art, now attacking the handmade object in New York City. And here, au 4e, Le Marais, famous fine art quartier. On the internet today, a false report in its ubiquity. This is a false report. Notre Dame Catholic Cathedral remains unburned, is unharmed, her Catholic medieval architecture pristine in her original form, her Catholic clergy safe and healthy inside, in good spirits, her fine artists here in this epicenter, the Fine Art Gallery District of Paris, of France, of the European Union by Maastricht Treaty, remain open for business. The Irish Times, in quote today from the Holy Father, Pope Benedict, we're at EU press conference from Vatican City, said, quote, because Turkey has not been allowed to enter the European Union, the Maastricht Treaty shall always remain, end quote. The Irish Times is of award-winning journalism, has been inaccurately listed as having closed her Vatican City bureau due to a lack of finance. Her award-winning journalists there disclaiming such information this morning as fiction. Similarly, the Catholic Pope Benedict is still there and in good health, in articulate form, remains the pontiff of the Catholic Church and Holy See. In Catholic legend, she is orchestrated and completed in the sky, descending to displace mercurial poisons, chaos, lifting the whole of the European Union onto the financial, physically conservative platform of the Catholic Church. In 1020 AD, this is a false report. Notre Dame Catholic Cathedral has not burned down. The fictitious fire is here occurring au 4e, Le Marais, famous fine art quartier, favorite choice and location of fine artists across the EU for more than 400 years. She has been the epicenter of financial fine art gallery showcase for more than 400 years. In legend, it is the favorite gay neighborhood of Paris, of France, of the European Union by Maastricht Treaty. Her famous fine artists, her famous fine art gallery dealers locating here on the Seine. The fine art history of this area alone, beginning in the 1600s when Napoleonic fine art modernism names her the lingua franca of her ambassadors, circumnavigating the military history book for one of mankind's achievement together. This sees the Academy move from ancient Rome here to Paris, France, the Louvre, metamorphosizing it from a military fort at the hands of Napoleon Bonaparte, President of France, to become the world's great fine art collection, the great ally of the JFK Liberal Democratic Party, Camelot. It is a world history museum, the great ally of the Liberal Democratic Party, one inviting all peoples of the world to live in Paris, France, in the separation of church from state, embodied in the Maastricht Treaty. At the dawn of the Catholic medieval era in 800 AD, Ireland's St. Patrick calls for a cathedral, the weight of prayer. Responding this early morning, Catholic Masons, the Knights of the Cross, from as far away as Catholic Royal Castilian Spain, Catholic Italy, and Catholic France, recall the placement of the Catholic Rock of Gibraltar in southern Spain. The Catholic Rock of Gibraltar was then the symbol that the European Union continental main was different and distinct from the African continental body. The Rock of Gibraltar rebuffs the infidels, then launching from the North African military state of Egypt, attempting imposture the European Union by Maastricht Treaty, taking on familial surnames, efforting identity theft, hoped to breach entrance into cathedralic and polity architecture, were then attempting theft, EU postal mail. The Catholic Knights of the Cross, responding this early morning, named this a false alarm, a false report. This is a false report. Notre Dame Catholic Cathedral has not burned down. The fictitious fire is here occurring au 4e, Le Marais, famous fine art quartier, favorite choice and location of fine artists across the European Union for more than 400 years. In Catholic legend, she is orchestrated and completed in the sky, descending to displace mercurial poisons, chaos, lifting the whole of the European Union onto the financial, physically conservative platform of the Catholic Church. The conceptual art, today attacking the handmade object of US and EU international press corps, is here fascinated with the mythology surrounding Chartres Catholic Cathedral that would catch fire, much like the Twin Towers, in the chiming of the hours, upon a fall into the Dutch Pays-Bas, circa the 1600s. Chartres Cathedral, then efforting missionary work in Africa to ameliorate the bubonic plague, the Black Plague, and its awful quarantine, are thought in poetry to be occupying two landscapes at once, speaks today perhaps of the Scottish Highland, the stacking of landscapes in World War II hierarchy that would suggest the steppes of the Caucasus. This causes Rome to burn in 400 AD, bringing conclusion there. It suggests Piet Mondrian conceptual art theories, leaping from the earthly solar to lunar orb, to wield the battle station Star Wars that might manipulate the Iron Curtain. The Knights of the Cross responding this early morning, here au 4e, famous fine art quartier in Paris, France, famous Quartier des Artistes. Name this a false report, a false alarm. Notre Dame is unburned, remains pristine of her original architectural form, her Catholic clergy safe and inside, unharmed. The conceptual art, here fascinated with the mythology surrounding Chartres Catholic Cathedral that would catch fire in legend in the 1600s of the Dutch Pays-Bas. Chartres Cathedral, locating south of Notre Dame. The Catholic clergy of Chartres is then attempting to ameliorate the suffering from the Black Plague. Afoot missionary work in Africa is, by poetic legend, occupying two landscapes at once. As a theater of the real, it challenges again today metaphor. A theater of the real, curiously suggesting the literal today by conceptual art, now attacking the handmade object in New York City. And here, au 4e, Le Marais, famous fine art quartier. In 1950, at apparition of McCarthyism's Pompidou Center, a fine art museum at her tippy-top floor, here in the 4e, the fine artists and fine art gallery dealers go underground. They would resurface in 1957 as a nascent import from Paris, Soho Art Gallery District in New York City. Arriving anachronistically, the Pompidou Center casts the area to sleep. We awake today, 60, 70 years later. Given the information by Eugene Atke, famous French photographer of the 4e, the Dutch merchant marine are then attempting round the Cape of Good Hope to prove by empirical latitude and longitude that the Mediterranean Sea exists to cut the two continents, one from the other like a knife. They were, of course, successful. Named this a false report, a false alarm. Notre Dame Catholic Cathedral has not burned down. This is a false report. Her famous fine art quartier, the celebrated gay neighborhood of Paris, France. She is the financial epicenter showcase of the fine art world. It arrives with a host of intellectuals from the European Union at exodus from World War II 1940s. They are then heralded by the famous German Berliner Hans Hofmann, invited by the U.S. First Lady Jackie Kennedy to establish the cutting-edge Provincetown School, Yale College, the American Ivy League. Where else but in Kennedy country, on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, USA, Camelot. In what remains the famous JFK fact-finding trip into the Bauhaus of Germany, locating a Hans Hofmann as quote-unquote dove like-minded philosophy. He is, of course, invited emigrate into the Upper West Side of Manhattan. His professoric colleagues, the Swiss-born American architect William Lescaz, Philip Johnson, the two co-creators of the international style. There, with Hofmann in 1910, then surrounded by the finest minds of their day, Piet Mondrian, Vasily Kandinsky, Mies van der Rohe, Paul Klee. Lescaz going on to orchestrate and architect the Lescaz House in 1930, and the Museum of Modern Art in New York City that same year, 1930. The famous academic easel painting professor Hans Hofmann, you will enjoy recall, is invited by the United States First Lady Jackie Kennedy to establish the cutting-edge Provincetown School, Yale College, the American Ivy League. On Cape Cod in Massachusetts, USA, Camelot. It is her original intent that this marvelous school might shed light on the Bauhaus at a time leading up to World War II, that Hans Hofmann would champion the fine artist in lieu of the engineer. The American farm boy Jackson Pollock, the famous Dutch academic painter Willem de Kooning, his beautiful wife Elaine de Kooning, the celebrated intellectual from Manhattan, Robert Motherwell, a painterly painter, Mark Rothko, Joni Mitchell, Sam Francis, the German Gerhard Richter, Jasper Johns, his wonderful friend Ellsworth Kelly. They are the most famous academic easel painting student body that Yale has yet had. winning their gold laurel at this time in 1957 by identifying the difference between the handmade object and what is conceptual art or idea art. This has been a false report. Catholic Notre Dame Cathedral remains pristine, is unharmed. There has been no fire. It is a fiction. Her Catholic clergy, healthy inside, unharmed. Her artists and famous fine art galleries, open for business. Hi there, I'm Jonathan Vitale. I am today newest hire on the fine art desk at the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones Incorporated. I particularly wanted to report on this lovely area along the flowing Seine. I was, only a few years ago, a young fine art history student. I represented the Art Students League of Manhattan. At that time, just come to Paris in 1989. Living au 4e. A walk and off to fine art history lecture à la Sorbonne. Hailing from New York University on Washington Square. Our famous fine art history department, first established by my aegis and friend, the preeminent American fine art historian, H.W. Johnson. Cheers! And may God bless you, Paris, France, the European Union by Maastricht Treaty. Hi there, I'm Jonathan Vitale. I am today newest hire onto the fine arts desk at the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones Incorporated. Hi there, I'm Jonathan Vitale. I am today newest hire onto the fine arts desk at the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones Incorporated.